Hello, everybody. Welcome. I am Vince Russo of russosbrand.com and also of patreon.com/RussoTWC. You know what? There are a lot of things I hate, loathe, despise about the professional wrestling business. A lot of things. But I am going to tell you what is at the tippy top of my list. And what I'm talking about is every one of the thousands of clickbait videos under the category of professional wrestling that starts with so-and-so shoots on. I hate that. I've always hate that. And you will only find these kind of videos as it relates to wrestling. Because let me translate so-and-so shoots on to you. What that equates to is so-and-so buries so-and-so. Or, to be more blunt, so-and-so shits on so-and-so. I hate that. I hate so-and-so shoots on. Wrestling is the only genre, category, whatever you want to call it, where everybody shits on everybody else. And it's depressing. It is really depressing to me. And I don't put up clickbait videos like that. And if you don't believe me, you could ask one Mr. Stevie Richards, who is kind enough to help me with YouTube. And I instructed Stevie long ago, I do not want any videos that say Vince Russo shits on, Vince Russo shoots on, Vince Russo buries. None. I don't give a crap about the clickbait. I don't care if anybody watches the video. I hate the negativity that goes with professional wrestling. It sickens me. It's childish. Everybody is always burying everybody else. So you know what? We're going to change that today. We're going to change that today with this new series. And the name of my series is Vince Russo Puts Over. That's right. I had the honor and the privilege of working with many, many, many great talents, people in the professional wrestling business. Now, don't get me wrong. There were some that weren't that great. I'm going to be honest with you. But there was some really great, talented, wonderful, individual people. And that's what I'm going to do on this show. So if you don't like positiveness, then turn this damn thing off right now, because I'm about to get real positive up in here. When it comes to the Road Dogg Jesse James, who you may know as Brian James of the Armstrong family, a legendary family in the wrestling business. I had the honor and pleasure of working with Bullet Bob Armstrong, Brian's dad. You want to talk about a man's man? I worked with a couple of the Armstrong family. This was a wrestling family to the core. Great, great men, great individuals in this family. I want to point out Brian James, and I'll tell you why. I can remember a time when I just started getting into the writing at the WWE. I was on the outskirts. I was being trained. I was being taught the ropes. And we weren't doing much with Brian at the time. And I will always remember going to TV. This is pre-roadie, mind you. So I'm probably going back 95, 96, probably 96. That's when I started getting more involved in the writing. And I remember Brian coming up to me at every TV. Vince, I got to do something. Vince, please find something for me to do. Vince, please give me the opportunity. Every single TV like clockwork. Brian wanted to be part of the company. Brian wanted to be a performer. All Brian wanted was a chance. And there wasn't a week that didn't go by where Brian didn't get in my ear looking for that opportunity. And I have to be honest, every time I sat down and started working on the television, Brian was in my mind. I was looking for that spot. How can I help Brian? And that is a message to all the wrestlers out there that are afraid to approach creative or afraid to approach a Bruce Pritchard or a Vince McMahon. I am telling you, because I was approached by Brian. Brian was always in my mind looking for something for Brian to do, just a small little opportunity. To give credit where credit is due, because screw you, I don't take credit for things that aren't mine. And when somebody else came up with something, I am the first one to put them over. You could believe all the dirt sheet folklore you want. You know what I do with the dirt sheet folklore? I wipe my backside with it. Because it was Vince McMahon at his dining room table when we had DX, and it was Shawn, and it was Hunter, and it was China. And we talked about expanding the group. And Vince McMahon himself came up with the concept of putting together Brian James and Kip Billy as the new Age Outlaws. It was Vince's idea. And listen, I'm going to be honest. I sat there and I didn't see it. And one of the reasons I really didn't see it, because you got to remember, prior to this, Billy Gunn was casted as Rockabilly. Brian was really second fiddle to Jeff Jarrett as the Road Dogg. I did not see that big picture potential that Vince McMahon saw in putting these two individuals together. I am not sure where the name, the New Age Outlaws, derived from. It did not derive from me. I'm almost certain that was an idea of Brian James's, but I am giving 1,000% credit of this to Vince McMahon. It was Vince's idea, and I remember sitting at the dining room table and saying, Vince, really? Really? And Vince said, yeah, really. And I remember, and Brian can back me on this, and Billy can back me on this, one of the first things these guys did was that dumpster promo with Mick Foley and Terry Funk. And I think since it was Vince's idea to marry these two, Vince walked them through that entire segment verbatim. And if you go back and watch this one segment, this was the segment that put the New Age Outlaws on the map. And Vince McMahon oversaw that, walked them through that entire segment. I also want to add all the shtick, all the you didn't know, all the ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls was 100% Brian James. Not one word of that was written by a writer or me. Not a word of it. 100% the talent of Brian James. You know, we talk about great mic people. You talk about the Dusties and you talk about the Ric Flairs and the Austins and the Hogans and the Rocks. But you know what? Brian is never put in that category. And maybe it's because Brian's success really came as a team with Billy. But Brian needs to be in that category as one of the best promos of all time and one of the best talkers of all time, because he is, and he was. Brian was a great performer, second generation wrestler. It was in his blood. And you know what, bro? Nothing was going to hold back the Road Dogg Jesse James, Brian James, of being a mega superstar. I also want to point out I worked with Brian for a while at TNA when Brian was having some issues. Brian was dealing with some demons, as we all do. And you know what? Brian overcame all that. Brian James is as great a human being and a man and a husband and a father as he was a performer. I know Brian and I had our differences of late. Brian became a part of, WWE Creative. I've been critical of WWE Creative. That is not personal. None of that was ever a slight at Brian James. It was just my professional opinion of the WWE Creative. Brian James as a performer, Brian James as a man is a great, great individual. And I got to tell you something. I was truly blessed to have gotten to work with this man and to have gotten to at one point call this man a friend. Ladies and gentlemen, God bless the Road Dogg, Brian James. So there you have it. The first episode of Vince Russo Puts Over. And there'll be many, many more to come. Check me out on russosbrand.com and patreon.com/RussoTWC.